I was kind of curious, since just looking at like the statistics of the videos being watched, more people are watching the Into Bridge Rank videos. So I decided to put up a community post. I mean, it's only been a day or something, so maybe, more votes will come in. But we got 31 votes, which is a decent amount. And most people wanted to see more of the squeeze videos. The poll results were pretty overwhelming, so we are going to take a look at more squeezes. 2 suit strip squeezes. Oh, can I make this bigger? There. Is that better? Is this better? No, that's worse. That's better. Okay. 2 suit strip squeezes. In strip squeezes, declare surrenders the lead after playing the squeeze card, forcing an opponent to give up a trick in the suit he must lead, or lead to a winner declare can't reach, or perhaps establishing a trick in the suit led. So this is all true. Babs, thanks so much for the 15 months and the Prime resub. Appreciate the support. Welcome back to the lounge. So I think this is the key to strip squeezes, is that you squeeze an opponent and then you must give up a trick at some point for these squeezes to work. It's not going to be like the simple squeezes or the trump squeezes that we've seen so far, where declare... Actually, we never looked at too many... I don't think we looked at an example of a simple squeeze where declare gives up the lead after the squeeze occurred. Those do exist, but they're a lot less common. Like certainly less common than strip squeezes or any of these other sorts of things. But it's possible. But normally for these simple squeezes or trump squeezes, declare just like has all but one trick remaining and an opponent gets squeezed out of that one trick. Here, we're going to have more than just one loser. So we're going to have 2 losers, sometimes 3 losers. And our objective is to gain 1 extra trick. But that means somewhere along the way, we have to give up a trick. And when we do so is very important in these sorts of situations, because it's not going to be the same thing as rectifying the count. Sometimes we actually need that card to give up to throw someone in for an end play. Is the main mechanism of a strip squeeze. So prior to the surrender of the lead, the opponent's hand has been squeezed out of or stripped of any cards that would foil declare's purpose, and this is where the name comes from. When a simple squeeze is not available because there's no way to rectify the count to 1 loser, or the threats are misplaced, or whatever, I think this is more of the situation we're going to be seeing here, or whatever, a 2-suit strip squeeze may be in order if the squeezy has a weak and playable guard, or blah, 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 blah. Okay, words. 2-suit strip squeeze is often preferable to a simple squeeze for another reason. When a simple squeeze would be possible by conceding a trick in order to rectify the count, the 2-loser feature, the strip squeeze permits declare... Oh my god, the double space. Permits declare to make an extra trick occasionally. Wait, what does that mean? If an unlikely trick comes from elsewhere... the count becomes rectified for a simple squeeze. Ducking to 1 loser earlier would have given up a trick unnecessarily. Okay, I understand what they're saying. It's basically like you're combining chances. You're combining chances with, like, for example, a suit coming home, like a queen dropping doubleton or a suit splitting 3-3, and then you basically get the trick that you were searching for already. But if none of these things happen, then we might be in a position where a strip squeeze will materialize. So that makes sense. A bad feature is the ambiguity that sometimes arises. I think it's like 90% of cases there's going to be ambiguity about these positions, which is, again, one of the main reasons why I kind of highlight all the time, like you want to focus on like the basic techniques. Understanding some of these end positions and what they look like for squeezes is kind of helpful for pattern recognition, so that you can like play to a very similar looking position and then try and guess what happened and what the opponents have come down to, what they've discarded and what's left in their hand, sort of thing. But most important is that you try and work out what the opponents actually hold in their hands. Try and get to a double dummy position, and then if you're familiar with squeezes, you can try and solve that double dummy position a little bit easier. For this reason, a simple squeeze may be preferable when given a choice. Simple squeezes seldom have ambiguity problems. This is true as long as we're in the kind of basic examples that we've seen so far. So strip and end play, blah, blah. Okay, we're going to skip all that. The two-suit strip and end play is guaranteed to gain a trick with just 2 losers remaining, but will work with more losers if the squeezee has no side suit exit card. He'll be squeezed out of or stripped of any excess winners in the side suits, no matter how many losers declare has, and so must have an exit card in order to escape the end play. With 2 losers, the defender will be stripped out of any such out card. It's therefore a good idea to rectify the count by ducking down to 2 losers if that's possible. So this is definitely an important piece of the puzzle, that you want to make sure that 1, they can't exit in a different suit, and 2, probably the more important thing that that causes problems for declarer when they're playing for a strip squeeze, that they don't have communication to their partner. Because what we're going to see is a lot of these positions where like we're sitting on an ace-queen combination and we know the finesse is offside for whatever reason, like maybe left-hand opponent opened the bidding, maybe right-hand opponent preempted, so we just suspect. Maybe it's the case that left-hand opponent has made a signal in the suit earlier in the hand. So we think the finesse is failing for whatever reason, but we get to throw our left-hand opponent in, so they cash however many tricks they get, but then they've had to, in quotations, and this is where the card reading comes down, they've had to come down to King Doubleton in that suit that's behind our ace-queen. Otherwise, we could just drop their singleton king. And so this is one of the points that I think this book is going to harp on a lot, and sometimes defenders can do this in practice in real life, but it's not always the case that a defender sees this coming multiple tricks ahead and can kind of in good tempo come down to a singleton king in a suit. A lot of the time, defenders in real life are just going to come down to that end position where they have King Doubleton and the outside card that we exit to, and then we just throw them in and they lead into our ace-queen. It says, an attractive feature of the squeeze is that it will work against either opponent no matter who guards the threats. So yeah, this is technically true, but generally speaking, because we come down to this like end play and finesse position, if we think the finesse is just working, we often just take the finesse. We don't like play for this ambiguous squeeze position because we might have guessed wrong about the shape of the hand, right? So we don't want to play for the squeeze and then exit to someone and they're like, oh, haha, LOL, I didn't have the king anyway. It was all onside all along, and I get to cash this other side suit and you lose your ace at the end, sort of thing. So we definitely don't want that to happen. But let's take an example. Oh my God, we have a full hand. This is the first time we've seen a full deal. Okay, well, let's construct the full deal. The auction, South opened a spade. North bids 3 spades limit raise. Very good. East comes in with 4 hearts. Of course they do. And South bids 4 spades. Or South bids 6 spades or something. Is that what happened? Ah, yeah. South bids 6 spades. Very good. Excellent auction, guys. Well played all around. And so let's take a look at the hand. So this is the example hand. West leads a heart that their partner has asked for in the auction. I mean, they could have, I'm sure they could have come up with a better auction for this and had East just like preempt 2 hearts in first seat or something like that, or preempt 3 hearts in first seat, right? But I think the point is we want to know that East has the club king. I'm not sure it matters. Like if West had the club king, I don't think there's anything we could actually do on this hand to make the contract. So giving East the king of clubs, I think, is pretty important. Anyway, so heart opening lead goes to the jack. And this is where a lot of squeeze knowledge comes in. It is basically at trick 1 for a lot of top tier declarers. Like they're not just thinking about like what to do on this trick or a plan of attack for the hand. They're thinking of what types of squeeze endings could they possibly be playing for that would give them a small extra chance, and how do we reduce down to that sort of end position? So I think there are 2 ways to do it. One, you could either you could memorize a bunch of the stuff that's in this book. You could just memorize all of these type things and try and learn this, and then try and be able to identify that in practice. But because every hand is a little bit different, and because you have to like combine these squeeze ideas with some sort of practical play, right? Like pulling trumps and cross-ruffing and setting up side suits and all of these sorts of things. This sort of memorization, I think, is a little bit less practical. Whereas if you're familiar with kind of like what the end position looks like, then like this is how I do it when I think about squeezes. I'm familiar with a lot of different types of end positions, and then I try and use some pattern recognition to get down there. So what I would see here, hey Dezu, yeah, let's see, you got a message deleted. So where were we? Heart lead to the jack. So we were talking about how familiarity with different types of end positions on these squeezes can help us kind of plan ahead for whether we want to duck a trick or win a trick at trick 1, and all of that sort of stuff. And in this case, we have to combat that with like what's actually going on this deal. And let's pretend like we were playing 6 no trump, for example, right? In 6 no trump, if we were thinking about playing this hand as like a simple squeeze, we need to identify what sort of threats we might hold that could develop into an extra trick. And so we can identify that the queen of clubs and the 10 of hearts are potential threats that could develop into an extra trick. We can count up our number of tricks. We have 11 of them: 6 spades, 1 heart, 3 diamonds, and 1 club. So normally we might think about doing something like rectifying the count. Again, let's suppose we're thinking about this from a no trump perspective. So East wins the jack of hearts. Let's say they play back the king, we win the ace, and West isn't allowed to ruff this trick. So we're playing 6 no trump. Well, remember we need entries to all of our threats to be able to make a squeeze happen. So we could, for example, play a few rounds of spades. But at this point, we need to cash our 3 diamonds, because if we continue cashing spades, dummy gets squeezed before we cash all of dummy's diamonds. I mean, for a number of reasons, we also kind of lose out on the entry to the 10 of hearts before cashing all of our side winners. But so we start by cashing some diamonds. And South's hand comes under a little bit of pressure. You have no sound. Did West forget to rough trick 2? Yeah, I'm 6 no trump. 6 no trump. Yeah, so I just typed out to Koopa that we're pretending like this is 6 no trump, and I'm just gonna try and show off why like a simple squeeze isn't going to work out on this hand. So king of diamonds, we have to make a discard. If we discard the 9 of clubs, then we kind of lose out on the value of the club queen. Now, the 3 clubs would still be a threat, but it's a lot less likely that someone has all of the missing club cards. So instead, we could pitch the 10 of hearts. But now the 8 of hearts is the card that needs to be a threat. So East can pitch a club here. We cash one more spade. Pitching a club, East can throw a diamond. We cash one more spade. And now North is the one who's getting squeezed before East has to make a discard. If we pitch a club, so does East. And if we pitch a heart, so does East. And so if we go all the way back to the start of the hand and we look at heart to the jack and we're pretending like we're in 6 no trump again, king of hearts, there's actually nothing we can do from this position to make the contract. And double dummy will tell us that like we've already gone down against the sly of the cards, even though it looks like we kind of have the right stuff in a sense to make a squeeze happen, just because we have to discard on the 3rd round of diamonds from the south hand, and East will then be able to sit over dummy and discard before them at some position. So a simple squeeze doesn't actually work, which means we can't just, we can't just always decide that we're going to like try and rectify the count and get down to one loser. And this is, again, kind of the nuance of squeeze technique, is that if we visualize far enough ahead in this position, we see that a simple squeeze is not going to work because East is the one with the hearts. So instead, what we can do is play for this thing called a strip squeeze. In this case, we kind of get forced into it because East could have given their partner heart rough at trick 2. But even if we were playing this hand in 6 no trump, I just wanted to illustrate that playing for a simple squeeze and ducking to rectify the count would not work. We would not be able to win or to make the contract if we were in 6 no trump. Now, let me actually, just to complete the thought, in this position, double dummy is going to tell us that there's only 2 cards in East's hand that East can return, which beat the contract. And it is, well, sorry, a heart return will beat the contract, but the king, queen of hearts will beat it too. We're in spades now. But assuming that West wasn't allowed to rough this trick, West could discard a club and the king of hearts beats the contract in 6 no trump. But if East had returned, say, a diamond, we do make the contract on the simple squeeze because now we have an entry to the 10 of hearts and we can perform a Vienna coup. So we win the ace of diamonds here. Again, we're pretending like we're in no trump again. Play another round of spades, pulling trumps. But now we actually do want to cash all of our spades before crossing to dummy. Because, like, again, we can visualize the end position. We have ace 10 doubleton of hearts opposite a singleton. And we have, like, some clubs over here in North's hand, basically. And we'll cash the ace of clubs, and then we'll play the 3rd round of diamonds, and East is going to have to discard before South in these positions. So we play the 10 of spades. East can pitch a diamond for now. We play another spade. East can pitch another diamond. We play yet another spade. At this point, we can throw a heart. Doesn't really matter. East can pitch yet another diamond. And now diamond to the king. And now we perform the Vienna coup, not necessarily because we have to. Like, cashing the queen of diamonds would give us enough information. And in fact, because East is down to the only 2 hearts remaining, we do have perfect information here, but it's a little bit simpler to just cache the ace of clubs. And now we don't even need to pay attention to the heart cards. We just need to see if the king of clubs gets discarded. If East pitches the club king, we pitch the 10 of hearts. If East pitches a heart, we pitch the club queen. And South takes the last 2 tricks in this position. So going all the way back, I mean, if we're still in the 6 no trump land, right? We can kind of visualize as declare that the defenders will have a way to defeat 6 no trump by just playing 2 rounds of hearts. But if they don't, we want to capitalize on that mistake. Then again, even if we were in 6 no trump, the strip squeeze is going to get us home on this hand. So now let's finally talk about how this is going to work. So the idea is that we want to reduce to a 3-card ending, where basically we have some sort of finessable position, like an ace and a queen. In this case, the ace and queen are split between the north-south hands, but they could be in the same hand. Like if north had the club queen, it would be the same thing. We would just come down to the ace-queen doubleton of clubs in north, small doubleton club in south. South is going to have an exit card, the 10 of hearts, that we're going to use to throw someone in, and north can have another irrelevant card of some kind. So to reach that position, because now we have a visual of what we're aiming for, and what we're going to do at that point is we exit the 10 of hearts. East can only have 3 cards in their hand. They must protect the club king, which hopefully we can figure out if they've done so. And therefore, they can only have 1 heart left. We play the heart. They get end played. They have to lead away from their club queen. We get the extra trick. That's how it works. So to reach that position, we can visualize we need to actually win the ace of hearts because we can pitch 1 heart on the king, queen, 3rd of diamonds, and then we can see the 3-card ending. We have the 10 of hearts, we have the queen, 9 of clubs, we run all the spades in our hand, and we get down to those 3 cards. Dummy comes down to ace, doubleton of clubs and a heart, for example, and then we exit a heart, is how this is going to work. So in 6 spades, we're going to pull trumps first. So let's do that. And now, very importantly, we don't want to run our spades. It's still going to function fine if we run our spades, but I think it's a lot easier to visualize these types of things and kind of get in the habit of, I would say, caching suits in a more natural order when it comes to squeezing. Because South is the one that's like out of entries, if we run the spades first and then run the diamonds, we end up in the north hand. It's still going to work fine on this exact example, but in practice, we want to end in the south hand just in case north didn't actually have an exit card. So we're going to cache the 3 diamonds first. Ace of diamonds, diamond over, another round of diamonds. We pitch the 5 of hearts, and now we start running spades. East can throw a diamond on this trick, so can West. We play another spade, pitching a club. East can throw a club for now. We play another spade, now pitching a heart, and East gets squeezed on this trick. If they pitch a club, now a club to the ace, and a club back to the queen, and instead, if East throws a heart, now East only has 1 heart winner. Hopefully we've been counting. We can exit the 10 of hearts. East wins, and they're down to just clubs in the end position. They have to lead away from the club king, and our queen of clubs scores the final trick. Well, the second to last trick, our 12th trick on the hand. So 6 spades makes. So that's the idea of a strip squeeze. I guess just as a final point, I will come back to this idea I mentioned where I said, like, we want to cache 3 rounds of diamonds now. Technically, we don't have to, but we do want to be a little bit careful if we choose not to. So let's say we start playing spades now. We come down to kind of the similar type of position in north here. And now we play 3 rounds of diamonds to execute the squeeze because East needs to get stripped of their diamonds and also of their extra heart card. So we play a diamond. East once again is squeezed if they pitch a club. Kind of the same thing happens. We go ace of clubs, dropping the king. And if East pitches a heart, so do we. And now we're not in the south hand, but it's still okay for us to exit a heart from dummy because North has an exit card. This would be the reason why we want to get in the habit of cashing these diamonds before the spades is that it just kind of reduces a little bit of strain on yourself in trying to work out some of these positions because like North, for example, might not have had an extra heart here. North might have just had a bunch of clubs. And so we want to be in the practice of ending our caching in the hand that just doesn't have outside entries. And here North has the ace of clubs, so North has an outside entry. South is the one who doesn't have outside entries. So that's kind of why we want to end our caching in the south hand. But in this case, it doesn't really matter. King of diamonds will squeeze East all the same. So this is the idea behind strip squeezes. Let's see what they have to say about it, because I saw they said something about 6-no trump. Heart 2 is led and South must take the ace. In a 6-no trump contract, declare could have ducked the heart lead to set the stage for a type 3 simple squeeze. So this is incorrect, right? And we just kind of showed why this is incorrect. That even in 6-no trump, and even if we go through our practice of trying to rectify the count on this hand, we still go down because the entries don't work out. East can just continue a second heart, and then it breaks up our entries for the squeeze and no trump. So we actually have to, even if we were playing in 6-no trump on this hand, we would have to play for a strip squeeze because it is the only practical chance to actually to make the contract, or at least it's the best practical chance to make the contract. Oh, hold on. There's one more thing I wanted to do before we move away from this hand. I want to illustrate how strip squeezes end up failing in a lot of places, or like how you can see as a defender that a strip squeeze might fail. I know that defense is a lot more complicated. I want to adjust North's shape a little bit. Let me give North one extra heart and East one extra club. Very similar type hand, right? And okay, fine. The 4-heart bid makes a lot less sense now, but ignore the auction for a second. So if West were to lead the 2 of hearts, the strip squeeze still functions the exact same on this deal, right? We cash 3 spades, pulling trumps. And then we cash 3 rounds of diamonds, pitching the 5 of hearts. And we can kind of, if we become familiar with these types of squeezes, see that the end position just works. So at this point in time, like even like from the start of the deal, I could just visualize that this was a strip squeeze, and you can too if you become a little bit more familiar with these types of things. But so we see kind of the matrix now. We have the 10 of hearts, the queen of clubs, ace doubleton of clubs over here. East is the only one with hearts and clubs, so East is going to get squeezed as we run the spades in this ending. So this still works. And we get to this position, we exit the 10 of hearts, and East has to lead away from the club queen, or club king, so our queen of clubs takes a trick. If we go all the way back to the start of the deal, though, West has a way to break up the strip squeeze. And the way to do it, to break up these strip squeezes, is to effectively play through the suit where declarer has an ace-queen combination. So sometimes West is actually the one that gets squeezed here, and then East would need to be the one to push a club through to knock out the club ace, kill kind of the matrix is what we call it for these squeeze type positions. But here, West can actually beat 6 spades by leading a club at trick 1. Obviously a very unnatural lead on whatever auction we use to get here. But the club lead, I mean, if we follow it through, there's really nothing that can be done. If declarer ducks, which is kind of their best practical chance, whoops, it doesn't matter what we play, the king of clubs wins, East can exit the king of hearts, and I mean, just looking at the hand, there's no way to get rid of a heart loser from here. And if we go up with the ace of clubs, well, now there's no possibility of end playing east. The count has not been rectified for a simple squeeze. So if we, for example, start running spades and diamonds, then east is going to have an idle card to discard at the end of play here. So we can run all the spades. And again, now that south is the one with the ace of hearts, we want north to be the one to finish cashing the suit. Just kind of a natural looking thing in this position. So now we do want to run the spades before running the diamonds in terms of this simple squeeze possibility. So we cash out all of our spades. We can pitch some hearts. And east can throw a club, and now 3 rounds of diamonds. But the problem is that east has an extra card. So on the king of diamonds, east doesn't get squeezed here because they just get to discard the 10 of clubs. So we could pitch the queen of clubs, for example, and duck a heart to set up a trick, but now east is in and they get to cash the club king. So this is why a simple squeeze would not work and why a club lead actually defeats 6 spades on this hand. But it's pretty close. If we were able to duck a heart before getting a club lead, then there would be no defense. We would just have kind of like the Vienna coup position, and count would be rectified, and then east would be simple squeezed in this ending. So anyway, I mean, I talked through a bunch of kind of scenarios there. Hopefully we get the idea of strip squeezes, though. In some cases, the order of cashing winners is important. Ooh, very good. I was talking about this. Following deal was misanalyzed in a well-known bridge column. Oh, in a well-known bridge column. I wonder who that was. Okay, so I guess we are setting up another full deal. And what's going on? Playing 6 no trump in a match point game. South gets a heart lead. All right, let's take a look. 6 no, all pass, great opening bid. So we get a heart lead. As usual, we can count our tricks. So we can always collect at least 4 spade tricks. Three hearts, 3 diamonds, and 2 clubs would be 12. We would like to score 13 if the spades come home, because it's match points. I guess it depends on how many pairs in the field we think are going to reach the small slam, but it seems pretty likely that everyone in the field is going to reach at least a small slam on this one. So in that case, I think the best plan at match points is to cash the ace king of spades. Like, I mean, we lead up towards one of the spades, and like if we decide to start from north and lead the 2 of spades and east plays low, I think we play the ace, is my point. So before I read anything about what they say, that's kind of like my first cursory analysis. So let's take a look at how we might actually want to approach the hand. It seems practical to me to win the heart queen and lead a spade. That seems very natural to me. I mean, the jack of hearts is probably from length, so west is more likely to be void in spades than east. Maybe only by a small margin. But that's basically the idea. Like, we don't want to play a spade to the king and have East show out, for example, or play a spade to the ace and have West show out, and then we're in a very precarious situation. We can still make it on this lie of the cards, which is, I think, the point that they're going to highlight, and we'll talk about that. But I think what I would do on this hand is win the queen of hearts and lead a spade, and when West shows out, we can just claim 12 tricks, right? West can pitch a heart, but now we can just stick in the 10 of spades. East gets their spade trick, and then we run the spade suit. We can pitch a club on the ace, queen, jack of diamonds. Don't need to worry about the club queen. What is this hand about? Well, here's what they want to show off. Because, like I said, because it's a match point game, I think what happened is Declare won the ace of hearts to keep fluid communication in the heart suit, led the 2 of spades, it went low, and Declare played the ace. Which I think is the right thing to do if you decide to lead the 2 of spades and East plays low, right? Like, I think this is very clearly the right thing to do at match points. So now we're in a bit of trouble, because if we knock out both the queen, jack of spades, then obviously we lose 2 tricks, we go down. We can still make the contract here, but we need to be careful about how we start cashing our tricks. So, for example, let's suppose, well, the first thing we want to do when we look at squeeze positions, and I think we're now getting into the types of squeezes where it's like, they're not all going to mimic the textbook examples, right? Like, this is going to resemble some sort of strip squeeze position, but it's not going to be one that we necessarily like have a visual in our mind, right? Like this whole like ace queen and 1 exit card, that is a very simple visual. This one's going to be a lot less clear. So we need to kind of identify what we're hoping to accomplish. And again, we're planning to come down to a 3-card ending, where East has just the queen, jack, small of spades left, and we have king, 10, 9, and dummy. And so then our plan is going to be we lead a spade to the 10, East wins the jack, and has to lead away from the queen. And we can kind of think about, like, is it actually possible to force East to do this? Well, yeah, because if they discard a spade earlier, then we have 1 fewer spade loser. We can just knock out the spades and set up the spade suit. But there are some problems. So first off, we're going to need the club finesse. So let's like try the club finesse. I don't know if this is what we would do in real life, play club to the jack, but let's suppose we do. The club finesse wins. Now we can pitch a spade on the ace, queen, jack of diamonds and get down to, this 3-card spade ending, and then we can just cash our hearts and clubs, right? And everything's good? Kind of. So let's see what happens if we're a little bit careless on this hand. We lead a diamond to the king. We play a diamond back to the ace. And then we lead the queen of diamonds and we pitch a spade. Okay, great. It looks like everything's going fine. Now we go king of hearts. A heart to the queen. Cool. So far, so good. Now a club to the king. And a club. Great. East is getting squeezed on this trick. Unfortunately, because we have too many losers on this hand, East knows that they're going to get in at some point. This is very similar to that simple squeeze that we looked at previously, where it was like, because the count hadn't been rectified, the squeeze doesn't exactly operate. So here East can pitch a spade. We win the club ace, and okay, like we can now set up a spade trick. We only have 1 spade loser, but East has a winning diamond. So the order in which we cash our suits matters because we need to make sure that East doesn't have a winner at the end of play. And so after we, for example, take a club finesse because we need this extra trick here to come down to the end position that we're hoping for, now we can make this kind of guess that because West has led the jack of hearts, West has heart length, so let's start by cashing hearts. So we lead the king of hearts and another heart. East pitches a club to hold on to their long diamonds for as long as possible. But now we can go after clubs, club to the king, club back. At this point, if East pitches a spade, now we can just knock out the queen jack of spades and we have the rest. Save that one trick. So instead, East is going to throw a diamond. And now we've successfully stripped East of their extra diamond. So king of diamonds, diamond to the queen, ace of diamonds, and we're kind of in the desired end position. Now we can just exit the 10 of spades from dummy. East wins the jack, and East has to lead into the king 9 of spades. So that's the idea on this hand, is that we need to make sure that East gets squeezed out of their side cards, not because they have an exit card in this case, but because we actually establish an extra winner for them. So that's kind of the idea on this deal. Let's see what they have to say. Playing 6 no trump in a match point game, South gets a heart lead. Declare could play safe for the contract by making a safety play in spades, which involves finessing on the first round. If that loses, there are no more losers. However, it's match point, so Declare wants to take all the tricks. Guessing wrong, Declare plays the ace of spades first. So this is kind of what I mentioned, where like after we get the jack of hearts lead, a little bit more likely that East has spade length. So we would want to lead a spade towards the king, and then we don't have any guesswork. At this point, the columnist said defeat is certain. Ooh. Defeat may be likely, but not certain. Actually, I would disagree with this statement even. I think that most declarers, if they got into this position, would correctly cash their orders, or cash their winners in the right order. Dude, that was a weird dyslexic moment. I'm not dyslexic, so... But yes, I think most declarers would cash their winners in the right order. So Declare takes the club hook, cashes the club and heart winners, and then the diamond winners. Having been stripped of the 4th diamond when the hearts were cashed, East down to queen jack 3rd, South ducks a spade. Oh my god, dude. For an end play. Note that if Declare cashes the diamond winners first, East can hold on to the 4th diamond and defeat the contract. Would that be an exception to the statement the squeeze will always work with 2 losers? No, because there's no... Oh my god. Playing hearts and clubs first is not double dummy, since East is more likely to be long in diamonds than in those 2 suits. As in this deal, blah blah. Rule. When cashing side suit winners, cash your longest suits first. So this is a good general principle, right? But we always have to take into account the auction and the opening lead and the carding and defense and stuff like that. So again, like just getting better at building a picture of the opponent's hands is much more valuable than like learning all of these squeeze techniques sort of things. But once you have that skill, then the squeezes will become a lot more approachable. Defenders don't discard an apparently worthless card. This could become a winner in a strip squeeze ending. And I don't talk about this all the time when like I'm defending, but I'm certain that people have like heard me like agonize over like discarding some sort of like idle 4th card in a position where I'm just like, this is the 13th card of the suit. I mean, it's never going to take a trick on its own, but I really want to hold on to it sort of thing. This is kind of the reason why, because we want, as a defender, to have these extra winners in our hands so that Declarer is forced to guess what to do rather than to try and like throw us in or strip out all of the hand and end play our partner. Something of that nature, right? We want to hold on to some excess winners so that Declarer is in a position of uncertainty, I guess is the way I would phrase it. Wow, that's it about strip squeezes. Okay, we're on to stepping stones. Stepping stone strip squeeze, or stepping stone squeeze, is based on the same principles as strip and end play, but instead of leading into a major tennis. So major tennis is this like ace-queen combination. I've talked about tennises before. So a major tennis is like an ace-queen, where like you have the master card in the suit. A minor tennis is like a king-jack, where the opponents have an ace in the suit. And so you tend to prefer major tennises and squeeze type endings, which is why it's important to lose your tricks early. That's kind of a piece of advice that a lot of even beginning players have heard. But this is the reason why, is because it pays off in these squeeze type end positions where major tennises are much more valuable than minor tennises. Maybe we'll see an example of that. So after being stripped out of a card or excess winners, the person who gets squeezed has to lead to a stranded winner that declarer can't otherwise reach. And this can help in a bunch of blocked end positions. Great, we're now down to these much simpler end positions. So let's take a look. So how does a stepping stone squeeze work? Not perfect. I didn't put in a contract. So how does a stepping stone squeeze work? South cashes the ace of spades in this position. I guess let's first talk a little bit about the position. Like, declare on the surface has 4 more winners here. The ace of spades, the king, queen of hearts, and the ace of hearts. Unfortunately, we don't have an entry to the ace of hearts because for whatever reason, earlier in the play, all of North Centuries got stripped, or maybe the hearts were just blocked from early in the hand. So we want to somehow squeeze a player that has extra heart length into keeping a losing heart in their hand. So this is not one of these positions where East wants to hold on to excess hearts, but they have to because otherwise the 3 of hearts actually becomes a trick. So as we cash the ace of spades and pitch a diamond from dummy, East gets squeezed. If they throw a heart, now the hearts become unblocked because we can actually overtake the queen of hearts to get to dummies 2. And the 2 of hearts cashes. So that would give us our 4th trick in this position. So instead of pitching a heart in this position, East can throw a club. But now because East has been forced to hold on to their extra hearts, we know, if we've been counting, that East still has a heart left. So we don't overtake the queen of hearts. And now we exit a club, hoping East is the one with the club ace, so that they have to lead into dummy's ace of hearts at the last trick. And this is the essence of a stepping stone squeeze, that we utilize an opponent's inability to discard their extra length in one of our stranded winners so that they're forced to reduce the number of their own winners, and then we exit to them, kind of similar to how a strip squeeze works, but they then have to lead their loser at like trick 13 or trick 12 or whatever into dummy or into declarer's hand where a stranded winner has been set up. So that's the idea behind stepping stone squeezes. So on the ace of spades, it strips the queen of clubs from East hand. South unblocks the hearts and plays a club to East ace, which we just saw. Another example here, it looks like. Excellent. Here we go. So 4 of spades gets led around to the 5. We cash the ace of spades. West hand kind of irrelevant. So we pitch a diamond, and East has a little bit of a conundrum on this trick. I mean, I guess this falls into the stepping stone family of squeezes, but is a very complex example. So let's take a look at what East's options are. The main problem that we have here is declare. So let's ignore East's hand for a minute. I just want to, let's say East pitches a diamond, right? We have the ace of hearts, the ace of clubs, and the king, queen of diamonds. So if we play the ace of hearts here to pitch a diamond, it looks like dummy just has 2 winners. We now knock out the diamond ace, but East still has the king of hearts in hand. So East wins the diamond ace, cashes the king of hearts, and we lose an extra trick. In fact, dummy gets a little bit squeezed on this trick, depending on what we think East has. But you'll notice that East actually comes under pressure on the ace of spades. If they pitch a heart, now our plan actually works. We cash the ace of hearts, pitching the diamond. East has been stripped out of their heart winner, and now we play a diamond over to dummy. East is forced to win the ace of diamonds and play a diamond back, or like they could duck and then we cash the club ace. But we end up taking 2 of the last 3 tricks in this position. So instead, though, after the diamond discard that we saw earlier, we can't afford to cash the ace of hearts, so we have to strand this winner, but it is possible that the 10 of diamonds has now grown up into a trick. So we play a diamond to the king, and East now has a bit of a conundrum. If they win the diamond ace, well, returning a diamond to dummy is high, so they'll play back the king of hearts, but now we win the ace of hearts. We pitch our diamond, and now we lead a diamond over. We still have communication to the north hand. So instead, East could try the effect of ducking this trick. And now we have to be careful, because if we just play back the queen of diamonds, setting up the diamond trick and dummy, East wins, and then they exit the king of hearts, and we're stranded. The ace of clubs has been lost. But instead, what we could do is we could cash the ace of clubs first. Great. East is squeezed. They pitch a heart. We pitch our heart loser. And now we exit a diamond. East wins the ace, but they have to give us access to the stranded ace of hearts at trick 13. So the king of hearts comes back. So yeah, stepping stones are definitely a more unusual type of squeeze. They don't come up all that often, although I think we did see one in the USBC trials that we watched last month. And they all have these like unique types of flavors to them. I think the original example we looked at was kind of, I would say, mainstream in a sense. Like you force someone to come down to just one winner, a bunch of extra losers in the suit that gets stepping stoned into, and then you exit to them after unblocking the suit, and they have to give dummy the last trick. That's kind of your textbook example, but like this is a very unusual type of stepping stone. And the order in which we cashed our tricks was like kind of unique here, right? Like we couldn't just always continue setting up diamonds, for example. We sometimes need to cash the ace of hearts, sometimes don't need to cash the ace of hearts. It is important to take the ace of clubs when we get over to dummy, all these sorts of things. So this was kind of a complicated example of a stepping stone. Okay, and they just go through the example of why this works. Strip and establish. There are 2 basic variations of the strip and establish. Depending on what? Depending on something. The strip and duck. This variation always works with 2 losers, even in a no-trump contract. It will often work with more if the squeezy has no exit card. This is actually a pretty common, well, I don't know about strip and duck, but for just like general strip squeezes, a lot of the time in 3 no-trump contracts, strip squeezes produce an extra trick. Because what ends up happening is the opponents establish their own suit, right? And at this point, Declare's entries have been knocked out, but Declare has established their suits. So then Declare can run their side suit, possibly 2 side suits, right? And then after doing that, they've stripped the opponents of all their exit cards in those side suits. And now assuming you've saved an extra loser in the suit the opponents have set up, based on their opening lead and continuation, then you can exit them. They'll run their side suit, but then they'll have to lead into your ace-queen combination at the end of play. So a lot of the time, these strip squeezes don't necessarily gain you an extra trick. It just removes the necessity of taking a finesse at the end of the hand in these no-trump contracts. So this is a pretty common play pattern in 3 no-trump, and I would say, like, if you become familiar with strip squeezes and can visualize these sorts of endings, look for this, because it does come up quite often, that this sort of, they lead something, you win, you knock out their ace, they return the suit their partner led. You don't want to duck this trick, you want to win it so that you save an exit card, and then you run all of your side suits, exit to them, left-hand opponent gets in, they cash whatever the suit was that was led, and then they have to lead into your ace queen at trick 12. That comes up all the time. So yeah, that's basically what this is saying, that sometimes these strip squeezes will work with more than just two losers. Two possibilities. All right, here is a layout highlighting possibility number 1. So let's see. Yeah, so this one's a little interesting. West is getting like squeezed in 3 suits here. I know that this is technically in the 2 suit strip squeeze section, but like technically West is getting squeezed out of their clubs on this because West just can't afford to discard too many times from the red suits. So we can play the ace of spades, and West does get to safely pitch a heart here because even though it allows us to set up the 10 of hearts, if we do so immediately, West is going to get in and play a club to their partner's hand. But when we play the king of spades, now West comes under way too much pressure. If they pitch another heart, then all of Dummy's hearts are good. If they pitch a diamond, we can throw a heart and the jack of diamonds scores an extra trick. So instead, West has to discard a club. Now the jack of diamonds has kind of served its purpose. And now we can duck a heart. So West will now have to lead back into North's hand. It's not really a stepping stone in this example. Like it was, as they called it, a strip and duck sort of situation. But we've been able to establish the 10 of hearts because West had way too many of their side's important cards, the king, queen of diamonds, and all of the hearts. And the jack of diamonds was the effective threat that West needed to protect against, which forced them to get rid of their club. So Dummy takes the last 3 tricks in this example. Heart ace is necessary to prevent West from keeping the club. On the first spade, West throws a heart. On the last spade, West cannot throw another heart, must discard the club. Then a heart is safely ducked. That's exactly what we saw. So a different example, threats are not in the same hand and either opponent can be squeezed. On that previous example, it would not have worked if we swapped the East and West hands because North would have to discard before East made a choice. And because there's no entry to the South hand, East could effectively just give up whatever North abandons in this example. But let's take a look at this one. We lead the ace of spades, and West comes under pressure here. If West pitches a diamond, then it's very easy. We just cash the ace of diamonds, and the jack of diamonds takes a trick. So instead, West can pitch a heart on this trick. But now we do lead a heart, and we do duck to preserve communication. On the previous example, we actually could have gone ace of hearts and a heart, and then it would kind of resemble a stepping stone because the heart winner would be, well, West would be forced to lead into Dummy's ace of diamonds, giving us the heart winner. Here, if we go ace of hearts and a heart, West wins, but then they play a diamond into the ace jack. So instead, we actually have to duck this heart. West exits the king of diamonds, but we have this 2 of hearts as communication to get over to the heart ace. I really don't think this is a strip squeeze, right? Like this to me is just a simple squeeze. This is what I would classify as a simple squeeze without the count rectified. So the previous one where we stripped West out of a club, I would count that as a strip squeeze. This one, I would just say this is a simple squeeze. A simple squeeze without the count is what I would call it. Okay, we have another example, which I guess we'll take a look at. So what's going on this hand? Oh, it's just another example. It's the exact same example we just saw, but another example of it. Well, not the just previous one, the one before that. We cash the ace of spades. West's hand doesn't really matter. And East has to keep a heart, or all 4 of their hearts, otherwise dummy's hearts run. East has to keep the king, queen of clubs, otherwise the jack of clubs takes a trick. So now East gets squeezed out of their diamond. And now that East has been squeezed out of their diamond, we can just duck a heart. I mean, this is not what we would do in real life. We would go king of hearts, lead a heart, West shows out, and now we're like, oh, and now we duck a heart. East wins. They can play back the club king, but we still have communication in the heart suit. Heart to the ace, queen of hearts, and we get the last trick, which we have set up. If we hadn't done that, obviously East would be able to get in and lead a diamond, and West would run the diamond suit. So that's the example. With no way to rectify the count, do the hearts have to run? Not if the heart holder must guard clubs. The strip and duck, which works with 2 losers, saves the day. South cashes the ace of spades, stripping East out of a diamond exit. South then cashes the heart king, leads a low heart, and ducks when West shows out. Exactly. The squeeze works with the East-West hands reversed, but you would have to be sure of the distribution as when West started with 5, as when West started with 5. Wait, what? 4 hearts is what they mean. 4, asterisk, not 5. You would have to duck on the second round. Note the unblocking of the heart suit. If South carelessly plays a high heart from the north hand before playing the king, the duck results in a blocked suit. Also, if all 3 heart protectors... okay, great. The topless strip. This is what we've all been waiting for. The topless strip version of the strip and establish has the same requirements as the strip and duck. Except that blah, blah, blah. Okay. When West started with 5 hearts, he would be certain hearts were not breaking and could duck the second round. It's true. It would also be pretty ineffective because we wouldn't be setting up the long heart, but you're correct. Okay, what have we got here? So what's going on here? We lead the ace of spades. West gets squeezed because they have the king, queen of diamonds. So if they pitch a diamond, obviously we pitch a heart, and dummy takes 2 diamond tricks. So instead, West pitches a heart. Jack of diamonds has served its purpose. We can get rid of that now. And now we set up a heart trick, heart towards the queen. It's not really a stepping stone, but West is kind of stepping stone because they don't have a club to play. Have to lead to dummy, and then the queen of hearts takes the last trick. I have no idea why this is called a topless strip. Let's find out. In the spade contract, okay, it doesn't really matter. We played it as no trump, but it's fine. Had the contract been a no trump, or if South had a small club, West could have foiled the squeeze by throwing a heart on the previous trick and hanging on to a club. Wait, what? What do you mean the previous trick? What previous trick? Show us the end position we're talking about. They're saying if West had an extra club, then they could have held on to clubs and discarded one of their heart winners. This is true. They could have done that. Very true. Unlike the strip and end play, a topless strip cannot always squeeze an opponent out of a side suit winner or fast entry to partners winner, even with just 2 losers. So I guess they're calling it the top meaning that the opponents have multiple winners in a suit and they're going to get squeezed out of one of them. And therefore, we're going to be able to establish some lower ranking cards in a suit. I think that's what they're what they're saying. Same exact example. This one I'm not going to set up. It's the exact same thing, but the Jack of Diamonds has just been moved into South's hand instead of North's. So once again, we play the Ace of Spades. West is going to have to pitch a heart. We can then throw a diamond, and then we set up the heart trick. This looks a little bit different. Let's take a look at this one. Okay, so we lead the Ace of Spades. It's very similar. Like, a lot of these squeezes are going to look very similar, but it's just a different setup a little bit. And sure, if you want to classify them differently as they do in the book, you can do that. But if West pitches a heart, we can throw a diamond, of course. Ace, Jack of Hearts take 2 tricks. So instead, West will have to pitch a diamond. Now again, the Jack of Hearts has done its job. So like, this is a position where I think a lot of players might go wrong in this type of squeeze. If you pitch a diamond here, you actually kind of strand the diamond king. So even though we can exit a diamond to the ace, West will lead the King of Hearts. And now this Jack of Hearts is going to function like a stepping stone to West, who gets the last trick. So instead, once a threat in a squeeze position has, in quotations, done its job, here the Jack of Hearts has already done its job on this trick. And like, how do I know that? I mean, I don't know. We're looking at a double dummy position, but like, well, what sort of rules can you use to figure this out? Like, I don't know if there's a rule for when the Jack of Hearts has done its job, because like, you want to preserve all of these threats for as long as possible. But here, when we're cashing our last winner, like, we assume that the threat has done its work. So we pitch the Jack of Hearts. Like, West is the only one who can possibly be getting squeezed on this trick, kind of unfortunately. And so we pitch the Jack of Hearts. I guess that's not true, actually. Wait a second. No, that's correct. Well, I mean, East could be getting squeezed, but not really in the way that we... This is a really... I'm going to flip the East-West hands just so that we can take a look at this afterwards, because I think it's interesting. But but yes, let's finish up the thought on this problem first. So the Jack of Hearts has effectively done the thing that it was supposed to. It forced West to make a decision before North did. Now we can get rid of it. East hand doesn't matter. Now we can duck a diamond, setting up the king, if we've been paying attention and if we've been following the play. I don't know why we didn't take a diamond finesse earlier, but maybe West opened the bidding. So West exits the King of Hearts, but now we still have this 3 diamonds to get back over to the king that has been established. So a little bit tricky. And I guess we would call this a strip squeeze. But what I want to do is I want to flip the East-West hands. So let's do that. Because on the surface, it might look like we could just take a diamond finesse. But the problem here is that... Whoops. The problem here is that if we lead a heart to North and lead a diamond, East is going to be able to score an extra heart trick. So if we did something like this to lead a diamond to take a finesse, East wins the ace, and then they get to cash the King of Hearts. So we lose a trick in this end position. So instead, the same squeeze is going to work against East. We play the Ace of Spades. West discards. And it's kind of silly, but now the Jack of Hearts is kind of an illusion of a card. We still discard the Jack of Hearts, and East might be like, oh, good, I've escaped the squeeze because now I don't need to hold on to the King, Queen of Hearts. Obviously, we've seen what happens if they pitch a diamond. We exit a diamond, right? Sets up the ace, they play a heart into us, and the King of Diamonds takes the last trick. But instead, if East pitches a heart on this trick, now East has been strip squeezed. Because now when we play a heart over, East no longer has a heart winner. So now we can safely take the diamond finesse at the end of play. And we score the King of Diamonds. So This is actually quite an interesting type of strip squeeze because East, I don't even know how to describe it, but they got stripped out of their extra heart card, which allowed us to then utilize an entry to dummy because they had no more winners in that suit to take a finesse that otherwise we might not have been able to take because we would have set up an extra trick for East earlier in the play. So this is actually a super cool type of strip squeeze. I don't know if they're going to bring that up in the book. When the spade is led, West lets go of a diamond. The heart jack is thrown. Declare then knocks out the diamond ace. Here too, only West can be squeezed. How sure are you, Mr. French? How sure are you about that? Because we just showed that the squeeze works equally well against East on this hand. But yeah, I find some of these types of squeezes, or like this one, a little bit fascinating because it's like most of the time when you see a squeeze, the opponents have to be squeezed in 2 actual suits. And getting squeezed out of effectively idle cards, like this idle extra heart, that East no longer needs to keep because the Jack of Hearts gets discarded, but it allows us the ability to then like safely cross to dummy because East doesn't have the extra length and can set up an extra winner by doing so. I find those super fun, but I guess maybe it's a bit more advanced than this book. What have we got here? So in this example, we lead the ace of spades, and again, there's almost always going to be one obvious thing that can't be discarded here. West can't pitch a heart, otherwise the 10 of hearts scores. So West has to discard a diamond on this trick. Now we can set up the queen of diamonds, and because the king of hearts is an entry to the south hand, West can exit a heart, but we get to win the king, cash the diamond queen, and the ace of hearts takes the last trick. So that's the example here. We've basically seen a lot of these types of examples. This is amusing. This is quite amusing. Sure, we'll take a look at this one. So in this example, we cash the ace of spades, and West comes under a little bit of pressure on this trick, but they can safely discard a diamond, as do we from North's hand. East's hand a little bit irrelevant, they can pitch a heart. But now on the king of spades, West comes under a lot of pressure. If they pitch a diamond, obviously the 9 of diamonds scores, so they have to pitch a heart. Now we can get rid of the 9 of diamonds. And now this is going to resemble a little bit of a stepping stone. We lead a heart. West wins. Obviously, if they take the ace of hearts, then dummy's just good. So instead of that, they can play back a diamond, but we win. And now we set up our last heart trick with the ace of diamonds still as a stopper in the suit. And West has to give us access to dummy stranded winners with the diamond continuation. So that's the idea. I guess we would consider this a topless strip, maybe without the count. Count has not been rectified for the normal type of strip squeeze, or not strip squeeze, whatever they call it, the topless strip. I think it's just a simple squeeze without the count is what I would consider this. And the last spade winner, West throws a heart, so Declare discards a 9 of diamonds. Then with 2 diamonds protecting the suit, Declare can concede 2 heart tricks. The squeeze would fail if West had a club exit in place of that 4th diamond. If West had ace, king, queen, jack, and hearts, and North 10 4th, North would need 3 diamond protectors for a triple concession. It's true. Yeah, that is very true. I guess we can show the example of what happens if West actually had a club card. So let's give them the club card and remove the 4 of diamonds. Just as the example. And also because this is an important thing to consider on defense as well, right? We play the ace of spades, and a lot of players would look at this and be like, I can't pitch a diamond, obviously. That much is clear. And they would want to hang on to all of their hearts. So they would be like, man, I can't pitch from the ace, king, queen of hearts, right? So they'll just nonchalantly throw the 8 of clubs. And now we get down to the same exact end position again. The king of spades is cashed. West pitches a heart now. The diamond gets discarded. Declare exits a heart. And we've seen this all before. But instead of pitching the 8 of clubs, West can pitch a heart. So Declare can pitch a diamond again. But we can play the king of spades, and West once again needs to be firm in their resolve and pitch yet another heart winner. We can pitch the 9 of diamonds at this point. It's basically done its job. West has been forced to keep all these diamonds. But now if we lead a heart, West wins. Great, dummy is all set up. But West has a club to get over to their partner's hand, who gets to cash a bunch of clubs. So keeping communication as defenders is very, very, very important in a lot of these squeeze endings to prevent your partner from getting, or yourself from getting strip squeezed in situations like this. So I think studying strip squeezes is actually a great way to learn a lot about defensive discards. It might not be all that approachable in terms of like doing this at the table, but you can get a bit more experience with what sort of cards might matter on a hand and like when you want to retain communication, when you want to discard losers and hold on to high cards, stuff like that. But I think that was a very pretty example of why West needs to keep that club. The vice squeeze. Okay, this is an actual term. The vice strip squeeze, or just called a vice squeeze, compresses an opponent's cards needed to protect the partnership's combined holding. A common case is an opponent's holding of queen jack opposite partner's ace. Okay. Aha. Yes. So this is a good one. South leads the ace of spades, and West gets squeezed in these two suits. Obviously, the ace of clubs discard sets up the king, so they pitch a diamond. But now Declare basically has a diamond finesse position. So you lead a diamond, and the 10 takes the last trick. So this is what a vice squeeze is. That if the defenders could lead diamonds through, they would take 3 tricks in this position. Queen, jack of diamonds, the ace of diamonds, as well as the ace of clubs. But Declare was able to not only prevent the ace of clubs from taking a trick, but squeeze West out of one of their diamond tricks as well. Kind of a cute position. West has been stripped of any side winner when South leads the ace of spades. West diamonds are caught in a vice. If East had a side winner, the squeeze would fail. If the club king had been in the north hand, it could not be reached when West throws the ace of clubs. Squeeze would also fail. When the side suit threat lies opposite the squeeze card, it must be protected. Okay. Let's take a look at this position. Dummy has too many cards. What did I do? No, they just gave us a position where Dummy had too many cards. And East had too few. I mean... okay, hold on. So now on the ace of spades, once again, West gets caught in this vice squeeze. If they pitch a club, we pitch a diamond from Dummy, both clubs take a trick. Instead, West pitches a diamond. Now the jack of clubs has served its purpose. And so now we can lead a diamond. Set up Dummy's 10 of diamonds, and East will have to lead into one of the minor suit cards. A fairly common holding for a vice squeeze is king, queen, 9, or queen 9 third opposite other honor third. With the 9 or the 8, if the opposite hand has 9, over the squeezy who holds both the jack and 10. Okay. Let's take a look at this position. So how does this one work exactly? We lead the... Do I know how this works? Sure. This might be some sort of, I mean, both opponents are getting squeezed here. Fascinating stuff. Okay, so we lead the ace of spades. If West ever discards a diamond, East's hand becomes kind of irrelevant. Because what we can do at this point is just lead a diamond to the king and lead a diamond back and duck. And now the queen of diamonds is an entry to the king of spades. So West can't pitch a diamond on the ace of spades. So West has to pitch a heart. If East pitches a diamond, then very similarly, we now lead a diamond to the king and a diamond now covering East Jack. West can win the ace, but now the 9 of diamonds is an entry to the spade king. So both opponents have to pitch hearts on the first spade. Now we lead the next spade. And again, West can't pitch a diamond because now we pitch a heart, East's hand becomes irrelevant, we lead a diamond up to the king, duck a diamond on the way back, and West has to play a heart, and then the queen of diamonds scores. So again, West has to pitch another heart. And now the 3 of hearts actually becomes an important card. So because East is the only one who still has hearts left. So at this point, we pitch a diamond, and East is now getting squeezed in the red suits. If East pitches a heart, somehow our 3 of hearts has grown up into a winner, and we better have been counting because the opponents have been forced to make all of these heart discards. We play a heart to the ace, cash the 3 of hearts, and knock out the diamond ace. So instead, East will have to pitch a diamond, and now West has basically been stripped of all of their extra hearts. So we could do this in a bunch of different ways, but I mean, the simplest way, I think, is to just cash the ace of hearts immediately and then lead the king of diamonds. And West could duck this trick, but then we play a diamond to the queen, West wins, and the 9 of diamonds takes the last trick. So, cute position. I don't know if I've ever seen this type of position in real life. Maybe it does come up more often than I expect. But kind of an interesting example of this like vice squeeze. And this squeeze happened on both opponents. It was necessary to cash all of our spades before doing anything in the diamond suit because West also got squeezed out of hearts. The 3 of hearts grew up into a threat. And so this is, again, I think, going all the way back to the start of play here. Like when we play the king of spades and West pitches the 10 of hearts, like we don't just want to discard the 3 of hearts because now East will pitch a heart and there's nothing we can do. We can cash the ace of hearts, but we can't play the diamonds ourselves. We lead a diamond, East can split their honors, queen, ace, and then a diamond comes through. And East will score the jack of diamonds. So we really need to maintain that 3 of hearts as a threat card for as long as possible. And so here we need to kind of visualize the end position, realize that the 3 of hearts might be important, discard the 3 of diamonds, and then try and work out what to do when East makes a discard. Very cute. Very cute. This can be called a double vice squeeze, since both opponents must guard hearts. If West had a side suit winner, the squeeze would fail. This is almost always going to be the case, that if the opponents have side suit winners, especially when they have aces, that like at some point during the squeeze, we're going to need to exit a card to them, the defense should come out on top if they defend accurately by saving their side suit winner and just discarding all of their guards in the suit that they have an ace. Because, fine, we need to knock out that ace anyway, and then they can cash their side suit winner, sort of thing. A diamond is led to the king, and then both spades are cashed. Cashing both spades first also works, however. This is the position. South now leads a diamond. If West hops up with the ace, the king is played under it. If he ducks, the ace of hearts is cashed and a diamond is led. Yeah, so we did something a little bit similar, but I said we cash the ace of hearts and then exit the king of diamonds, sort of thing. Example suggested by Alvin Bluthman. Is that his actual name, Bluthman? Alvin Bluthman. Yes. Oh my God. That is quite the hand that South has picked up. That is a 32 count. Okay. After South takes a flyer and bid slam and no trump, things look pretty bleak after the lead of the club 10. I'm not angry. He's just trying to provide examples. But like, why are we not leading the Heart Queen? All right, let's take a look. Oh, whoops. I guess we need... There we go. That's fine. No, I am angry. Let's go back. Does the club 8 matter? No, I mean the 7 of, well, we'll take a look. But I need to fix this hand. I'm sorry. Like, we can't get the 10 of clubs lead. We cannot get the 10 of clubs lead. Not from this hand. We're going to have to swap this. There we go. Now we can get the 10 of clubs lead, and now the hand is going to work as intended. Very good. Because, like, see, you know, look, here's the thing. I get that they're just trying to create squeeze examples, but I also think that it's important to look at hands from a practical perspective and see if, you know, someone was actually going to make this lead. Like, no one would lead the 10 of clubs if they had queen, jack, 10, 9 of hearts, right? But here, fine, West has a random guess between 3 suits, and let's say they choose clubs. Clubs against slams, right? That's the idea. So, okay. Let's first show why the 10 of clubs lead allows this contract to make, because that might be very surprising to people. But it's along the lines of what we've kind of already talked about. So club goes around to the queen, forcing out one of these honors. And now we start cashing our pointed suit winners. And again, we might need to cash these in a proper order, depending on what the hand looks like, because it's very possible that East might be holding on to diamond or spade length. In this case, because we have 7 cards in both suits, we can actually just kind of test them. Like if we play the king of diamonds here and West shows out, then we would revert to spades and then start playing spades. But everyone follows. So we can continue cashing diamonds. And play another diamond. West can pitch spades for now. Kind of irrelevant for the time being. Now we can start cashing spades. West can safely pitch a heart on this trick. We'll pitch a heart. But now on the jack of spades, West actually gets squeezed on this trick. West can't afford to pitch a heart because then 3 hearts take tricks. So West has to discard a club. Now we discard an extra heart. East hand kind of irrelevant here. But now we get to cash the ace king of hearts to strip out East exit cards. And now we have a stepping stone situation. I mean, it's like a vice stepping stone or something like that. We exit the jack of clubs, pinning the 9, setting up the 7 of clubs and dummy, and East is stepping stoned into giving us an entry back to that 7 of clubs at trick 12. So that's what happens on a club lead and how we can actually make the contract. So why doesn't this work on a different lead? Well, the reason is that we haven't been able to force out one of East's club honors. So on, for example, a diamond lead, I mean, I don't know what I can show on this. Like, it's not going to look very interesting because we're going to get to a similar end position, but we're going to go ace of clubs, jack of clubs, and East is just going to win the king queen. But yeah, I mean, we can kind of show off what would happen if we tried to play the hand in kind of the same manner. So we run all of our spades and our diamonds, very similar to what we did before. Play the queen of spades, West can pitch a heart. Play the jack of spades. West once again can't pitch a heart, but they can throw a club. So we can pitch a heart. East throws a club, but we see the problem here. If the lead was in dummy, we could lead a club. East would have to split, ace of clubs, and then unblock the hearts and exit the jack of clubs. Instead, because we're in our hand, I mean, we can cash the ace king of hearts, but when we lead the ace of clubs, East doesn't have to dump an honor. They could just follow with the 4. And so then we exit the jack of clubs and East takes the last 2 tricks. So kind of an amusing construction that the only lead to beat it is leading into declare's weakness, or the only lead to let it make is leading into declare's weakness, a club lead into the ace jack, even though it sets up a trick, it compromises East club holding prematurely. Very cute hand. Okay. Club 9 is smothered. East must lead a club to dummy's good 8 or 7 or whatever. This could be called a lunar squeeze, comparing the featureless dummy to a barren moonscape. A lunar landing seems impossible, but is nevertheless achieved. Actually, it is a form of stepping stone, the club king being used as a stepping stone to the club 8. The Winkle. Okay, this is a fun one, which does come up, I think, frequently enough in positions. This isn't actually the position that I'm most familiar with for Winkles, but we'll take a look. The Winkle can threaten opponents with turning a 2-loser suit into a 1-loser suit, and sometimes accomplishes that. Takes advantage of the inability of the opponents to untangle a suit blockage in the 2-loser suit. Comes in handy for certain positions in which declare has not enough transportation to cash the tricks he has coming, or an opponent may be unable to avoid an end play without giving up a trick in the 2-loser suit. Okay, let's take a look at this example. So this is kind of what a Winkle often is going to look like. We lead the ace of spades, and the opponents have these 2 heart cards, but because East has this queen jack of diamonds, East is going to get effectively stepping stoned on this trick. So West can pitch a heart or a diamond. I mean, West's hand kind of doesn't matter. We throw a heart from the north hand and East gets squeezed. If they pitch a diamond, then diamond to the ace and the 10 of diamonds scores. So they can't pitch a diamond. If East pitches the 5 of hearts, then this is going to resemble a very simple stepping stone. We cash the king of diamonds, unblocking the suit. We exit a heart. East wins the ace and has to return a diamond into the diamond ace. But the thing that is curious about stepping stones is that East has the option to discard a blocking card. Because East doesn't want to get end played here, East should be discarding the ace of hearts, hoping their partner has both the king and queen. But now what happens is we unblock the diamond king, and the power of the queen jack of hearts ensures that we score the last trick, regardless of who has the missing honor here. We lead the 3 of hearts. Obviously, if West ducks, then we take the last 2, but West will win the king, and then have to give us the queen of hearts at the end. So it's not really like both opponents get stepping stoned in this position. It's just East, to avoid the end play, has to effectively set up an extra trick in the suit where the opponents originally had an ace-king combination. And these sorts of situations arise often in either suit or no trump contracts, but I think much more often in no trump, where the opponents have like a running suit out against you, where they have like the ace, king, queen, like all of the top honors, but they don't lead it at trick 1 for one reason or another. Like maybe the opening leader had a longer side suit that was headed by like jack 5th, and so they lead that instead, as opposed to their like king 3rd or king 4th. And it turns out that they could have just cashed the first 5 tricks, but instead they lead the side suit, and then you get to cash a bunch of winners because with the opponents having all of these high cards in their side suit, your side frequently has most of the rest of the missing honors. And then they get into one of these positions where like they have to start discarding from their winning suit, and sometimes they could get strip squeezed or end played, so they try and unblock, and then it results in this type of position happening. So that's frequently where I see Winkles occur, or have the possibility of occurring. Here is a Winkle against a vulnerable stopper. I don't know what that means, but let's take a look. So similarly, we're going to be looking at the diamond suit here because East is going to have a lot of options, but one of the options they don't have is to discard a heart, because then the ace queen of hearts can both cash. So East could pitch the 7 of diamonds, and now when we exit a diamond, East is end played into leading, giving us the heart finesse. But East could also pitch the ace of diamonds, and now the queen of diamonds becomes an important card because we lead a diamond up, West can take the king, but then West has to play a diamond back to the queen. Now we don't need the heart finesse, but we take the last 2 tricks this way. So kind of a similar Winkle type position there.